Hi. I think you're on mute, Dom.
There we go. There was me saying good afternoon, good night, good evening to everybody, and always a classic. How many people have we got in attendance? I can't see, but I can see that the comments are already going. I hope everyone is as excited as we are to show you what we've been working on and what is the next 10-set gem. I'm not sure if we should give people a little bit of time to filter in, so do some intros in terms of our background. So to those who aren't aware, I'm Dom, co-founder with Callum here of Alvara Protocol. I've been in crypto since June 2021 in terms of working. I think I first got involved buying in 2018, and before that I was in a similar industry to what we're covering at Alvara, sort of fund management, asset management. So I was a derivatives trader, then a wealth manager, and then I was in traditional VC. So I'll hand over to you, Callum.
Hi guys, I'm Callum. I've been in crypto, same sort of time frame as Dom. Started working in crypto in 2021 and started investing in crypto in 2018 as well. Dom and I have been working together on Alvara for in some way or another 2 years now, but we've been developing what you're about to see today for over the last 18 months. It's come a long way. The platform's live on Go Early Testnet now, and really excited to show it to everybody.
If I could have done an impression of the Spider-Man meme, you know, the GIF where they're pointing at each other, I would have done it, but I didn't know if you'd get it. Going backwards and forwards, you would have just thought of making strange hand movements. Yeah, so to jump straight in with the demos. So we have two separate parts to our protocol. So the first part is what is separate to Alvara as a protocol and token, is an open source ERC standard that we're submitting officially for an Ethereum request for comment, which is what ERC stands for. Right now, we're calling it the ERC-BTS, as you can see here, which stands for Basket Token Standard. So if our submission gets approved as an ERC, you know, the 20th one was the ERC20, 721st was the 721, etc. So I think there's a new one, a 404 popping around, but I don't know why they've just taken that number, because it is not an official one. But yeah, so to jump straight in, essentially the ERC-BTS and the basket token standard is similar to a ERC-6551, which to those who don't know is an NFT which can contain multiple other tokens, including other NFTs, like a personal portfolio, which is also an NFT. But ours differs in that rather than being personal, it allows for multiple different users to collateralize within the same wrapper. And so we can add in our image here. I think I've got some TA I did on, I think it's inverse S&P against the CRE Regional Bank Index, just in case people wanted to know that. And if we have this as the first live demo, this is our title, and we can have FLD. Doesn't stand for anything bad, does it? Not that I can think of. So what we have, which is a key differentiator and why we've solved the scalability problem, because there are competitors to Alvara like AstraDAO or Enzyme Finance, but where they lack is that they try and control decentralization rather than manage it. The approach that we're taking is a very Uniswap Labs approach, in that like PancakeSwap or Uniswap, if you're about to buy a honeypot, at least PancakeSwap will warn you. It will say that this looks like a honeypot. If people choose to completely ignore that and the big red emergency triangle and click through it, like, you know, we can't control that. But it's our job to basically give that risk warning, just like DEX tools would, let people know where discretionary management is in place, and give a trust score and a risk score, because With discretionary management, obviously, people can buy and sell whatever they choose. So we just need to make everybody aware of any of the risks. But we are fully decentralized because that allows us to scale, because 99.9% of the fund and asset management industry and ETF industry is full discretionary. And if we don't go that route, then we're immediately alienating. Is to completely enter that market and make ourselves a viable alternative on the blockchain. So if I click through, and we can, there are so many demos that have the same tokens, because I always just do a metaverse basket, but we'll do that again. We'll keep it simple with a bit of action. There's no.
As it's on testnet, we've only got liquidity pools that you can see here for pools that we've created, but live on mainnet's hooked up to a Uniswap router, which will allow people to add tokens with liquidity, any tokens from Uniswap that have liquidity.
Yeah, hopefully we can aggregate and get as many dexes and everything that we're looking at as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
So we, there's no fee at first for minting a BTS, as in we have just a stipulation. So like we mentioned, the ERC-BTS will be open source, which means anybody can code it. And when they code it, they can have whatever they want in it. Only our factory minted BTSs have this stipulation, which is that a minimum of 5% is in the Alvara token. So again, BTS is open source. Anyone can code it however they like. It doesn't need Alvara, but the factory minted ones will have 5% as a minimum. And so we can put in 30, 35, allocate, go for 1 Goerli ETH, view, the flood, call it flood, mint, and now we need to offset some high gas so that Goerli doesn't mess with us. Let's pray to God, Goerli's on our side. Pray to the Goerli gods. Say that 5 times. Goerli God, Goerli God. There we go. We got a confirmation. So once that is confirmed, every single BTS goes onto our leaderboard, and this is the same as where OpenSea recognizes any 721 or 1155. It doesn't matter if it's minted on OpenSea or not. It's the exact same for us. So if people hand code it, we'll still recognize it. If it fits the token standard, it automatically gets pulled through. And so this has all of the gamification and all of the fun stuff everybody likes in terms of the trending bar. We have the sectors. Think of a CoinMarketCap, CoinGecko, DEX tools. Alvara has all of the monetization and revenue features of that. And so the key part of all of this is that it is a complete meritocracy. Whoever has the best performance will rank to the top of the leaderboard. It doesn't matter if they are whether they are an institution or retail or influencer, KOL. If they have the best performance, they will be recognized as such, and we will be incentivizing and making it a competition at the end of the day to try and reward those who are using the platform and the best managers. So you can see, I'll show you the transaction on Goerli of the mint. You can see here called the create BTS function on the factory contract, and everything was swapped as per the allocation. So 5% Alvara and then 30, 35. You can see that the first live demo BTS was minted to my wallet here, which if anyone knows that wallet, that's the Vemp deployer 05EFF. So key part of all of this is when you get into individual BTSs. So you can contribute to absolutely anybody's BTS. And when you do so, you receive in return, hopefully Goerli will catch up here, transferable and unique LP tokens, which represent your share in that BTS. And so that's like similar to Uniswap V2. You get the LP tokens, and they represent your overall amount within that LP pool. But ours is obviously BTS, where there's no LP. It's all in the underlying tokens. But the key part of that is, and let's open it up on here, wait for it to index. We've had the confirmation. Let's give it a refresh, see how don't fail on us now, goalie testnet. I might have to pick out a one I did earlier if this doesn't catch up with us. One more refresh. There we go. Yeah, the key part of this is that I get those LP tokens which are unique and transferable, because what this means is that if you are a BTS owner and you're earning a percentage of the underlying assets under management, you know exactly who all of your holders are, so you can build governance, you can add liquidity, you can build staking, you can build lending strategies, derivatives. Anything that can be done with any normal ERC-20 token can be done with the BTS's LP tokens. So what this means is that Alvara is the very, very bottom layer of infrastructure for the potential scalability of thousands or tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of individual sub-DAOs and sub-protocols built on top of and around successful BTSs. Because if you are a BTS manager and you want to attract as much assets as possible, then you want to drive people to the Alvara platform, because that's where they're going to contribute. We don't have to rely on just, us marketing ourselves. We have the ability for anybody to come on, start a business, manage a business, and you can even sell the rights to the management of your BTS on our marketplace, which means that you can actually price out a full sort of a, real world business multiple, like a price to revenue, if you can show that you've had assets under management and let's say you launch a tracker of the every liquid Animoca token, and that gets a lot of people on board, and there's 1,000 Ethereum in that. So you can demonstrate that you've earned 1% and you can sell the rights to that. If you do, a 4 times price to revenue, that if somebody wants to buy that, then they could be in the money in year 5 or year 4 or year 3 or whatever you want. But essentially you can innovate as much as you like. And that's just if it was a tracker. If it's an active BTS, you as the manager can build reputation. You can be well known. You can start out and maybe you launched a metaverse BTS and you've built up enough trust, you decide to launch a DeFi one and people follow you to that. And so what makes this truly institutional and in terms of like getting mass adoption is there's no reason to not use a BTS. That's the most important thing for us, was making sure that nobody had that get out of jail free card. Like with AstraDAO, for example, the LP tokens aren't transferable. So that immediately limits the scalability because you can't move those about. And in terms of Enzyme Finance, the maximum is 12 tokens per vault, I think they call it. Ours is unlimited. We also have the emergency stables option, which essentially, if you have a governance-based BTS, which some people will do, let's say that UST is depegging against Luna. You don't want to say, guys, can I stable in 3 days' time? Because at that point, it's too late. And obviously, the only loss from a stables option is opportunity loss. The market could keep on going up and you stabled and you've lost out on some gains. But that gives people, that gets the, there's not enough flexibility excuse out of the way. And so everything that can be done and innovated on top of a normal ERC-20 can be done around a BTS. So as I was saying before, in terms of making it truly institutional, we have taken the exact same governance as Curve Finance, and we have applied that to the BTS's LP tokens. To those who are familiar with Curve, how that works is that you buy Curve, and in our case, you buy Alva, you stake that for vote escrow Alva, the longer you stake it for, up to 4 years, or with ours, we have a feature to burn it permanently and get even more voting power, then the more rewards you can send to your BTS's LP token holders. So if you're an institution and let's say that you're ranking on page 3 or page 4 and other people are beating you and you want to try and get more popularity and get more AUM, you might not have the performance, but you do have the capital. And so there's a constant accumulation incentive for institutions to buy as much Alvara as possible, stake it out of circulation for as long as possible, because then they can vote to reward their contributors the most in Alvara. So it means contributors are earning a yield just for parking their Ethereum in that BTS. The BTS manager is building assets under management. They're earning more fees. The more fees they earn, the more Alvara they can buy, the more Alvara they can stake, the more votes they can get, the more yield they can send, the more AUM they build. And it's a constant cycle of accumulation where it remains a meritocracy, but institutions can have this cheat code where they are essentially able to use their funds. And for context, Curve Finance has, I think, 60% of its supply locked for an average of 3.5 years. That's how much it's taken out of circulation because of, you had what's called the Curve Wars. If you Google it, you'll see Convex, which is a top 100 token, is built on top of Curve. It can't exist without it. You will have Stake DAO, Pickle Finance, Beefy Finance, Yearn. All of these are built on top of the infrastructure that Curve provides and wouldn't exist without it. And so all of these sub protocols were competing for as much Curve as possible so that they could use it to incentivize their emissions towards their LPs. And so we have that exact same mechanic, but rather than tens or hundreds of yield aggregators, we have thousands or tens of thousands of institutions or new funds coming through the door. And you've got to remember that what we're showing you here is just what exists in its present form. You know, Larry Fink, the CEO of BlackRock, says tokenization of assets of the future. And if we can get the BTS synonymous with the go-to token standard for on-chain fund management, because there's no reason for people to not use it, then we can actually, you know, corner that market. Where if the institutions come on chain and they're not using the BTS, people will look at them like, why are you trying to hide? Because we're aggregating everybody's data. It's like with the 721, it's just synonymous as the NFT now. If you mint an NFT collection, you don't even think about it. It's just a collection of 721s, but you just call it an NFT collection. And if we can get that level of adoption for the BTS, then we become the on and off ramp for a whole new asset class within blockchain. So it's immense in what we're trying to achieve. And obviously there's a lot to go from where we are now to where we want to be in terms of cornering that market and becoming the go-to for all on-chain fund management. But, you know, when you're buying a metaverse or a game, like, you know that you can get to a few billion, if you're lucky, maybe 10 billion. You know, our peak is the peak of traditional finance. Like, it's constantly innovated on, and so it's limitless. And not many protocols can say that they have, you know, there's no fixed cap on where we can take this. Doesn't mean that we'll get there, of course, but in terms of like where we could go with this, you know, it could easily be
infinite.
Very top.
Just going back to the staking, Dom. I know, as you mentioned, we're very similar to Curve Finance and their gauge weight voting system. What percentage of Curve supplies is locked on their platform?
I can check right now, to be honest. So I believe it's at least 50 to 60%. I'm familiar with the classic UI, but I can check on the DAO here.
And that's without a forever lock or an indefinite locking period of burn.
So that's with that's without any sort of burn functionality. Here we go. I'm just loading it up here to see if it loads up in time. I might need to swap from our Gorally to normal Ethereum to see if it connects properly and give it a refresh.
So having 44% of our total token supply set aside for incentivizing these BTS tokens, in addition to the staking mechanism.
There you go. You can see percentage of total curve locked, excluding voting escrow, 70.51%. And
wow.
the average lock time is 3.34 years. And so that's what's called, a supply squeeze, because there's so much reason to lock curve. Because the thing is, the reason why you have Convex and all of these others, they offer VE curve staking so that people will give them their VE curve so that they can use it for the voting power. They set up what's called bribery pools, where they build whole protocols around getting as much VE curve as possible. And so, with curve, once somebody wins, once somebody corners that market for VE curve, Convex won essentially. And it's not loading up at the moment, but there's a pie chart. It might be here actually. There we go. You can see the Convex won the curve wars. And so as such, they have the biggest pie, which means that, once you have that bigger pie, it's hard to lose it. But with us, that's different, because you're not having that centralization, because you have so many more yield aggregators. You can see here, even though there are many, that's very small, because if you're contributing to one that isn't Convex, then they need to be giving you enough of their token to make up for the lack of curve on here. But with ours, obviously, we have traditional institutions which are due to be entering the market in a constant flow over the next 10, 20, 30, 40 years. There's not going to be one that corners the market, because, somebody else is always going to be coming on. And so by using this same gauge weight voting system, it's a constant competition. It's like pure meritocratic capitalism, the way it should be. Free markets.
But angled at a much bigger industry, the investment fund industry, rather than pure DeFi liquidity pools. Exactly.
And speaking on one of the and getting rid of any objections as to why people wouldn't use the BTS, a market maker we were speaking to raised one point, which shows you the scale of what we're building here. That their concern was that DEX liquidity wouldn't keep up with our ambitions, which is true somewhat, in that if we have so much TVL and assets under management that we're buying these big old chunks, if the DEX liquidity isn't there, then that's going to cause slippage issues and big market pumps from these funds allocating. And so we've been talking to people like Fireblocks, Coinbase, other aggregators, where we can use their centralized liquidity sources, FalconX as well, and tokenize them. Obviously, the core of this is DeFi, but there's no reason that, as long as people know and have like a little toggle in the top left or top right, saying like centralized liquidity sources ? And that can bring up additional, because we want this to be used by everybody, and we don't want any limitations, because any get out of jail free card is one that people can use. And so we want to solve all of those problems, so we can have the centralized liquidity sources. We can, and all of this is just the liquid token side. We haven't even talked about real world assets, shares, bonds, commodities, agriculture, property, anything that can be represented by an ERC-20 can be within that BTS. Also, SPACs, like a multi-SPAC, if you are looking to allocate funds and you've identified 5 private venture capital opportunities, and you want to pitch those out to the general public and say, I want to raise capital to buy into these 5, you can launch BTS. People contribute ETH like a launch pad, and you can use that to purchase these, as long as they are tokenized in terms of what you're purchasing, and there is a liquidity pool where you can transact Ethereum for them. it can be put into a BTS. So the scale of this is huge on just what exists currently, but this market is only getting bigger. And right now, people are using all of these weird and wonderful ways of representing on-chain funds. Like some of them call them safes, some of them call them vaults, some of them call them funds. And so by creating this token standard, what we're trying to do with the factory contract is facilitate the mass adoption of a token standard so that we can have that, one source where we can aggregate data. Because at the moment, you just can't aggregate across all of these different representations. It's all very platform to platform. And we're looking to blow that like completely open and allow anyone to use this token standard. We will pull it through, and we are just the first mover. It's like OpenSea also releasing the NFT at the same time, except hopefully we won't screw it up like OpenSea did in terms of first mover. But we've already got a token, so it's already better, already winning there. But
we're coming up to half an hour. Sorry, go on.
Yeah, conscious I haven't seen too many questions. I've been on the thing scrolling through, so I don't know if we want to scroll back. And have you seen any come through that caught your eye in terms of queues? Oh, there we go.
I can't actually. I'm not on the right
And
side.
Kryptonaut. What's the main reason for someone to create the basket versus holding those assets themselves? So number one is other people can contribute, and you earn a percentage of everything within that BTS. So you could hold those in your wallet, but nobody else can contribute to that, and you can't sort of earn from that as like an overall assets under management. In terms of like wallet tracking, because another thing that's been mentioned is there's a lot of like sniper wallets that will track a certain individual, and it will buy what they buy, but that is very prone to errors. For example, I know that my wallet is like looked at and tracked, and that in itself is a point of failure, because I won't buy on that wallet first, because I would purposely not buy stuff on that wallet, because I know if I do, then other people are going to come in afterwards, and if it doesn't go well, then they're not gonna. There's no accountability there. Where you can create this basket, you have the ability to basically hold all those assets as you would, but if you do well and other people want to join you and get involved, you have the ability where you can stumble into a whole business opportunity just from being good at selecting the right tokens. You can get to the top of the leaderboard, and you can even incentivize AUM if you are a big Alvara holder as well. So there's a few reasons and differences.
We've got a question here about the ERC standard. So how long should it take for ERC-BTS to become a standard? There's no real set length of time. The way it works is you submit a proposal to Ethereum. It's called an EIP, an Ethereum Improvement Proposal. So we've now drafted and are just about to submit our EIP. It has to go through discussion on the Ethereum forum. When I say ours, it doesn't belong to Alvara. We developed it, but it will be fully open source. We're not taking ownership of it, obviously. Has to go through a discussion period, then submitted to the Ethereum editors, and then it goes through a review, and they sort of make their mind up on whether or not it's significantly different to other standards to become its own standard. But we've got, there's ones like the ERC 6551 that's still in review at the moment. Publicly, it's been accepted as a standard, and it has several use cases. I think it also has a few security issues, but it's a process.
Oz has also passed its audit with a good auditor, and it's we think it has a very, very good chance, considering the fact that it is significantly different. And what I'm most excited about sort of the BTS, and it's just even when I'm talking to people now after having like however many pitches and demos where I've shown it to investors like influencers or KOLs or or the team, I'm even thinking of new things because of the web and how far it goes and how much can be built on top of it. It just doesn't. It's sort of never ending because the BTS has those LP tokens, so you can do everything the ERC-20 can do. But then even on top of that, you can add in like additional layers. If someone builds a, yield aggregator to incentivize like their own liquidity, then that's like another layer because people can build on top of what people build on top of. And so the depth that this has, and everything is just from Alvara is that very, very bottom layer of infrastructure. And in terms of the project, everybody, nobody likes a token that doesn't have a revenue model because there's no like buy pressure. And so people worry that the team is just selling tokens to survive. We have all of the revenue and monetization features that sustains CoinMarketCap, CoinGecko, DEX tools. We have all of the monetization methods of being the on and off ramp to a brand new asset class of contributions where it's 0.5% in, 0.5% out. Obviously, that's used to buy back and burn the token, and stakers get a percentage of platform fees. And on top of that, we also have the marketplace, which is the exact same sort of monetization features as OpenSea, Blur, or any of these others. And so that's 3 solid Ethereum or stablecoin revenue sources, which is all buy pressure for the token without the sell pressure. And so the token has such a utility and function in terms of the accumulation from whales to incentivize their BTS. You also have 5% of every factory minted BTS, and any contribution ever made to any factory minted BTS is also 5% little buy pressure every time. So all of that is so why I'm so bullish on it, because it has a real use case. Not just a bullshit governance token, which everybody loves to say, because Uniswap is a bit like that. It doesn't actually have much use within the protocol, whereas ours does. So very excited to get it all going. How easy is it? How often can it be done, and does it incur any fees or just gas? So it's done monthly. There's what you're seeing right now is the sort of consumer-facing side. So the actual BTS manager has their own sort of internal view, which is how they chop and change stuff. So it will all depend on whether it's discretionary or governance-based. What we're also allowing for, which gives a more flexible option to governance-based managers, is the ability for the DAO to whitelist certain tokens, because at the end of the day, if you say to your BTS DAO, can I swap from mana to sand? They probably, 100% of the time going to say, yes, that's completely fine. If you say, I want to swap from, mana to the next doggy Inu that trends on DEX tools, well, they'll probably want to, have a say in that. And so we allow the DAO to whitelist tokens like mega caps or those with a certain amount of liquidity. It's up to the DAO what they want to go for, but whether that is like top 500 tokens on CoinMarketCap or any token on CoinMarketCap with a minimum of 500,000 index liquidity. So they know it's of a size and respectability enough that people can chop and change without having to ask the DAO. So this is all new. There's going to be a process of implementing every different part of it. But our main goal as the Alvara Foundation managing the decentralized infrastructure is to make any reason why people wouldn't use it go away, because we've solved a lot of the things so far, but obviously once it's live and out there on mainnet, then it's going to have that much more use, and stuff will come up, and there will be like teething problems and stuff that we can do better, learn from. And so, we'll try and make it as easy to use as possible.
Will Alvara be multi-chain, EVM only? So we're launching on Ethereum as the home of DeFi. It makes sense to launch on Ethereum initially. Then EVM, but we do plan to be fully chain agnostic not long after launch, so that users can create baskets with a combination of tokens from literally any chain. Do you want to say anything more about that, Dom?
Yeah, it's a tough one because again, it's a sort of waiting for the technology to catch up. We want to have as much access to liquidity as possible because we want people to be able to put a Solana with Phantom. Of course there are like wrap versions of those tokens, but as in just examples. But at the same time, we want people to be able to have property representations with Solana and like Phantom and Ethereum. And so we will be, and we are talking to a lot of like people innovating in this area, but stuff will improve and stuff will get better. Our aim is to be able to route liquidity from as many sources as possible on as many chains as possible. And so there's a few things that we're thinking of and a few people we're working with. For example, one of the options that we have is having some sort of lock system where if there is a token that is on, let's say, BNB and you're using the rest on Ethereum, effectively on the BSC side, a contract will purchase it from the BSC and then lock it out of like circulation basically, but still via smart contract so that it can't be released until on the Ethereum side the rest of the tokens are sold. And so those are a few of the options, but there are a few that we're talking to who have ways to aggregate multi-chain like layer 0, etc. In terms of the BTS itself, obviously it's a new token standard, like any code, like there will be forks and improvements and other parts, but it's at the very, very max capacity of what a smart contract can do. So they can only hold so much data in an instruction. So we had to have multiple different versions to try and get space and see what we can trim down until we finally got everything we wanted in there. And so that was difficult enough on Ethereum, let alone on like a newer chain like Rust or Move, where you've got to do the exact same thing, but there's no like forks. It's just you've got to, it's a longer process, and we've got to prioritize where we spend the like dev hours. We want to do all of this, but because of the scope of how much we can cover and the scale of everything, we just need to prioritize like what we look at first. And the problems that come up, anything that we need to solve, it will be very much like, what is the priority, what is the best, it will give the best experience for users, and also what will attract institutions and sort of real capital, because we're already working with some investors like Alpha Transform Holdings, who we announced yesterday. They've got funds that they run in traditional markets, which they will be using through Alvara, which is huge. That's an actual fund manager in the real world using our decentralized infrastructure to manage their crypto holdings. Like, that's incredible. That's like, I don't think people understand how tough that is to get something like that. And our job and our role as the foundation is, getting the decentralized tech out, managing it, and having those conversations and trying to get that actual institutional adoption. Because if we can get institutions onto the platform, onboarded, show them there's a viable alternative with transparency and everything else that they want with the ability to scale, then like that's the dream. That's how we become, the biggest.
For sure. Just going back to Neil's question regarding how easy it is to rebalance or change the constitution of your fund. So it comes, as Dom mentioned before, it comes down to the type of management that's involved. So whether it's full discretionary management, where a single fund manager has complete control over the makeup of the fund and can change it whenever they want, or whether it's controlled by a DAO as a decentralized BTS. As a discretionary fund manager, it's very easy. A manager will use their portal. They can rebalance. They can change the constitution of their fund whenever they want. And they can set the rebalance with the existing constitution to an automatic monthly rebalance or a manual rebalance. So it doesn't have to be rebalanced on a monthly basis. And if it was controlled by a DAO, then again, as Dom mentioned, there are emergency stables as an option, and tokens can be whitelisted so that the manager can change them up whenever they want to, or it could go to a DAO for a vote and under a proposal.
The recent approval of Bitcoin ETF and its rising popularity in DeFi sector. I'm curious about the competition you face and whether there are other platforms offering similar services. So we do have competitors. Like, this isn't a new space for somebody to be entering. The main difference is that they weren't scalable, and they weren't an attractive proposition to, the real industry, the actual ETF industry, the actual fund management industry, because there were just way too many. Like, if you as an example I use is, for example, if you look at all of the tokens that the SEC goes after, people don't think they go after centralized exchanges, they go after tokens as securities, but they don't go after Uniswap that they all list on. And why is that? That is because they are completely decentralized. Obviously, the front end isn't decentralized, and people can argue that the labs team changes stuff. But in reality, the smart contracts are completely decentralized. And so rather than, they're doing it for the right reasons when they're whitelisting managers, because they don't want people to, code a honeypot and then use a fund to buy it. But our approach, and the reason why we're fully scalable, is that Uniswap and Uniswap Labs and Alvara and Alvara Foundation. Because if we take that centralized control and we say who can or can't manage a BTS, we're doing the job of the regulator, approving fund managers. That's just going to be a target. We need to be that step away from the protocol. We are just managing the decentralized infrastructure, and the DAO is doing the work in terms of whitelisting tokens and whitelisting other aspects. Our job is just to maintain the platform and do the work on the BDM side, bringing institutional capital in, because we don't want to be. We've solved this issue. Our competitors have created for themselves, but they did it for the right reasons, because the reason they're doing it is to protect users. But the way that we see it is we can only make people know, if we tell everyone the risks and we make them click through and accept the risks. If there is a risk that they can buy something and a manager has full discretionary permissions, they haven't provided any info, we're going to allow people to submit KYC if they wish, which will give them a good green tick. Because at the end of the day, you're going to want to give as much information as possible. If you are real and legitimate and you want to actually run one of these, the more information you give, the more you can get people to trust you, the more likely it is you'll build significant assets under management. I wouldn't be surprised if the biggest AUM BTSs are the people who just show their face and actually get behind it. And, because people can either mint a BTS and they luckily enough manage to get enough AUM because their performance is good. But you could even come to this with an actual plan, a website that says, I am creating this BTS. This is my background. I'm creating it for this reasons. This is my speciality. I've been in the metaverse or game development arena for this time, and I'm building out the games BTS. And by doing that, they're actually, seeking AUM, and they're giving information and giving a reason for people to trust them. They don't have to do that. It's decentralized. Anyone can do whatever they want. But if their goal is to earn an income from their BTS, which is entirely possible, then, it's in their benefit to give as much information as they like. So that value can be amended and changed, obviously, as I think, we've been building this for 2 years. And so Ethereum in that time has been down to, 1,000 and then back up to 2,500. And so it chops and changes. So the value.
Between the assets. So how exactly does the weighting work in the setup?
Oh, so it's completely down to you. So the only stipulation, the only like thing to bear in mind is with a factory minted BTS, a minimum of 5% is in the Alvara token. You can have more, but you can't have less. Everything else is down to you. So if you you can split that equally, you can split that into 80% in one, 15% in another, or in the future, if you tick the automatic monthly rebalance, let's say that you're just creating a index tracker of all the gaming tokens on CoinMarketCap, you might not want to change that because it's just it's not being an active one. That's not the purpose. You can set the automatic monthly rebalance, and that will auto reset every month to your original weightings and allocations. Because obviously, if you have Sand, Mana, and Axie, and Sand goes up by 300%, Mana stays the same, Axie goes down by 50%, those weightings are going to be really skewed from what you started with, which some people might be fine with. Other people will want those to go back to the level playing field at the beginning. So,
and every time you do that, you're essentially buying low and selling high within the basket.
Nice.
Mm-hmm.
We like that.
Mm-hmm.
If people make changes in assets in the basket, what will happen to the contributed LP token? Nothing changes, because at the end of the day, the LP token represents the Ethereum that you put in. That is what is swapped into the underlying tokens. And so when that liquidates, it all still remains the same. So it's the Ethereum that's in there, and then any gain or loss on that is on the additional size. So it doesn't have any impact, as in if the BTS as an overall basket goes up by an average of 50% and you put in 1 Ethereum, when you withdraw, that'll be 1.5 Ethereum minus whatever fees have been paid in and out. So there's no changes, and the LP tokens are burnt when you withdraw your Ethereum and minted when you contribute your Ethereum, like a LP token in a DEX.
I think it's also important to note that the 5% Alva contribution, if the BTS is minted through Alvara's BTS factory, it's not fed from any external reserve, just like all the other tokens that make up the BTS. It's bought live on the market, which means that every time a BTS is minted through Alvara, there's a 5% purchase of Alva on DEX. And the same every time there's a contribution to each BTS, another 5% of whatever that contribution is. It's constantly pushing up the price of the Alva token on DEX.
Yeah, and another thing to note, and why we're talking to so many partners at the moment, the great thing about Alvara is it's good for everyone in the industry, because if we're launching, or somebody wants to launch, like if you have a basket of projects that you're super bullish on, I can see Mr. Coltmander and also Neil, who I know, and I know Neil's got a protocol called StrikeX, and Mr. Coltmander, funnily enough, is part of the Cult DAO community. If you have, you can have a Cult Revolt TRG or however many ecosystem tokens, and have that, and you can get people to contribute. And obviously, all of that, it is, as Callum just mentioned, it's buying your tokens that you like on DEX, and people can contribute to it, and you can get more and more people if you are running that ecosystem basket, tokens you care about, communities you care about. The more people you can get into your BTS, you're not only earning fees, but you're also helping the tokens that you like. And so, when we're talking to the other 10-set gems that have launched, it's great for them. Why wouldn't they co-market with us? Because if we are creating a 10-set gem basket, all of that is going back to their community, and everyone's getting the benefit. If you're contributing to that BTS, like, the manager's happy, hopefully the contributor's happy if it performs well, and you can actually push all of your communities and what you actually care about. And Yeah. So, are there any we've missed? I'm conscious to scroll back up a bit.
I think we covered it all pretty well.
Fair enough. Any more for any more? Yeah. So we will do it in it depends on the manager. So token wise, any ERC-20 token whatsoever can be put into a BTS, but it's up to the manager. So where, for example, there is like a governance or a DAO based model, then the manager won't be able to change things without approval from the contributors. If it's a discretionary portfolio, then they can buy whatever they choose. That is completely down to them as the discretionary manager. We will give a trust score to the manager based on some, decentralized, unless there's anything that's like flagged to us where we have to, put that down. And if we can see that like a manager is purposely, pump and dumping tiny little caps, will, just like how Dex Tools puts that automatic thing up where the team has sold, they detect it and they put a little banner up. We'll do similar to that, where like we've had reports and we'll have like the thumbs down, thumbs up. I did that the wrong way around. Thumbs down, thumbs up, so that people can, give community scores. And but like, as I say, a lot of this stuff we're going to see as it comes up. There's going to be a lot of sort of live testing, because you can only do so much ongoingly. But yeah, it's all going to be very interesting to see, and I'm excited to see how much people build on top of it. And as a foundation, we're going to be launching lots of like grants programs where we're going to incentivize and reward the people who are building on top of Alvara, because it has this ability to be completely scaled. Then we will have rewards for those who do scale it, and if that's for them as a manager, or that's a grant section where you built on top of it and you get some Alvara yield for your contributors, which isn't sent by the DAO. So so public token launch in terms of 10 set sale is 25th, isn't it? Or is it 26th?
26th on 10 set.
And TGE is 4th or 5th?
4th of March. Yeah.
Okay.
Very soon. Not long to go.
You think S-Coin influencers would enjoy this, or would they just prefer to dump on followers in secret? I mean, it depends on who they are. But I mean, the good thing of this is a lot of people like to talk about their long-term bags. Oh, and it's like those influencers who say, I'm bullish on the following token, and then just copy and paste like the top 20 on Luna Crush, and just like, no, you're not. As in, like, you're just engagement farming. If you're that bullish, let's see your BTS. Let's see your 20 bags that you think will X100. Don't just post it on Twitter. Let's see it. If you're actually bullish and not just engagement farming, show us what you got, as Vic and Morty was saying.
And there are a lot of good trader influencers out there, and this will be a perfect platform for them to showcase exactly the ROI that they are making, and fully transparent, bring their followers in. I'm looking forward to seeing how it could potentially shift the industry in that way.
Oh, there'll always be degenerates. I'm not sure you can get rid of them, but we can try our best. But yeah, I hope everyone is as bullish as we are. Like I say, the scale that this could get to, and there's a lot of in between. It's between getting like the mass adoption we want and getting institutions on, there's a lot between here and there. We're making good waves already, but in terms of the scale that we could go to, the potential we could reach is just huge. It's uncapped. It could rival like the size of some of these Bitcoin ETFs, because at the end of the day, the BTS can do everything. Anything they can do, we can do better. It's from a musical, isn't it? Which one is it? That was a trick question. If you answered, then I would round you up. Yeah, but there's no reason. It's within the ethos of crypto. This is the actual reason that it exists. Decentralization. Removing this glass ceiling that's there with fund managers. Like I was derivatives trader, and I was associate partner at a wealth management firm, and then in venture capital. And I applied for so many jobs at JP Morgan, Goldman Sachs, Morgan Stanley, big investment banks, and I never even got a look in or an interview because there was a box that was, what degree do you have? And if you ticked you did not have one, they didn't even see you. Even though I had 10 years of experience in good finance jobs, somebody with a Cambridge or Oxford degree but no experience would get in the door that was shut to me, even though I had far more knowledge than them, and arguably would probably be a better, more profitable as an asset for the investment bank than they would. And we don't have any of that glass ceiling with Alvara. It's pure meritocracy. If you are good at selecting projects, if you're a good builder, if you're a good entrepreneur, then the world is your oyster. All you have to do is just show up and show that, and the transparency is done for you. And if you're good, then you'll rank at the top and you'll get AUM from that. So yeah, very, very bullish.
Likewise. Awesome.
Well,
should we wrap it up?
Let's wrap it up. Thank you very much for joining, and
thank you, guys.
Yeah, we'll do more of these and share this link and recording with anybody else who you think would like it, because the scale we want to take this to is absolutely huge, and the more people that know about it, the better, because it's quite there's a lot of layers to the project, but once you really get exactly where we're trying to take this and where it could go, it's a real game changer. So thanks so much, everybody, and we'll chat again soon.
Cheers.